Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you come across this video. Thank you so much for choosing to spend a little bit of time with us. This is Real Talk with Real People. Today we have Rebecca, and I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about Rebecca a lot. She is my mentor and a wonderful piece of my puzzle. So Rebecca, hello, hi.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to spend time with you again today.
I'm so excited you're here. It is such an honor. And so we're just going to talk. We're just going to have a conversation. We have a little bit of an outline, but so we'll talk about how we met and we'll just go from there. Um, so I found Rebecca through a community called Full Time Purpose. And I have talked about this before, I think, but where she made a post that said, meet your future millionaire self. And I thought, I have to meet her. So, like, as in my future billionaire self. And then once we had our meeting, right, I scheduled that meeting with you. We had our free 30-minute session, and I just remember thinking, like, wow, what a beautiful experience. Like I had to work with you. I even think remembering like you had this whole course and like the trauma spotting, but I knew immediately that you were a healer because you like in that first session, right? You brought out all this stuff and I was like, I remember my ego was like, I don't even want the course. I just want to work with you. I think I said that to you.
I think I
And
did.
you're like understanding, you knew you're like, you're gonna grow out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I
Uh,
remember saying like, I know you don't want the course, but I think eventually you'll benefit from the course.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I did absolutely. You were not wrong. But yeah, so we worked together, doing trauma spotting and, for a year,
Mhm.
and man, I learned so much during that year, and um, yeah,
Yeah, it's sort of the end of the year, right? This very traditional healing arc that we kind of discovered together because you were very early on in the process and sort of that it's a wow, this is amazing, we're healing, and then it's like, oh, I feel so good, I don't really have motivation for anything, and then then we start to come back and go, okay, I feel really good, I'm ready to start accepting and embracing and drawing in, and it was like boom boom boom, just promotion, raise, offer to move, quitting your job, channel exploding, like all at once, and it was just so fantastic to watch you literally explode into life. So it was, yes, so beautiful to watch your journey. Support
yeah.
you.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. And I could only, I can imagine like as I work with people now, like right, like doing trauma spotting, because it was such a beautiful thing that I was like, I have to share this with everyone. Like this modality is amazing, right? It's revolutionary for sure. And so it's so to see people like move past things and move out of a space of trauma and into purpose and have people reach out and just like I can't believe that I can handle this now, or like the peace that I feel around this, or I'm not afraid anymore, or and it's just like very, very rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you do realize this, you start to see how many people are struggling trying to figure it out. Like we're taught that our mind is everything and our mind is going to go find the answer. And that's actually not true. And what percentage would you guess of spiritual people are stuck in that hidden seeker, unhealed trauma phase, not
Mm,
able to give their purpose or shine their light or be seen? Right? It's a vast majority, I would guess. And
I agree.
it's profound how healing the body can be, how soft and simple it can be. The mind is not needed at all. If anything, it gets in the way, right?
Yeah.
There's some level of cognitive processing, but and that's what trauma spotting is, right? Getting into the body, because again, how many spiritual people signed up for a difficult life, right?
Yeah. All of us.
A vast majority of us have some sort of complex trauma or traditional trauma, right? And how that changes the brain and body. is a negative when we don't understand how to utilize the body to heal. And yet it becomes a superpower when we do heal, because that's your purpose. Pain into purpose. Your purpose is thriving so that you're shining, so that you're sharing your light with the world, and then helping, raise the collective whole. So trauma, I geek out about it. As you know, I could talk about trauma all day, and it's such a tough word, because it's like, I don't have trauma, but if your mom just didn't pay attention to you enough, or some, a classmate said something about your shoes. I mean, it's that simple, where the brain goes, oh, there's a problem with me. And even Gabor Mate talks about how the world is traumatizing, right? Even just marketing that's constantly telling you you're not skinny enough, or you don't have enough stuff, or you're not wealthy enough, not enough, right? This general theme of not enough. So then we adopt that belief, the world is not enough, or I'm not enough, or people are not enough. And then we as seekers go inward trying to find the answer, and we get stuck in that hidden seeker phase, and we never move past that block or that stuckness. Stuckness is probably one of the most common phrases that I hear with people that I work with, is we're just stuck in that constant consumption. And come to find out, the hidden seeker phase, the constant consumption, the inability to be seen, the fear of rejection, the fear of speaking our truth, these are all common trauma responses and documented states of the nervous system, a dorsal vagal state, right? So in our healthy state, we're healthily connected with the people around us. We're making friends, we're engaging, we're enjoying life. We feel safe and confident in ourselves, in our skin. We're resilient. We can bounce back from anything. We don't get triggered very easily, right? And then you move down the nervous system states, then you're in fight or flight, right? So either you're very angry or you're running away a lot. And then you go down even further. The lowest state, the dorsal vagal state of the nervous system, is fawn and freeze. How commonly are we in people pleasing or isolation? So there we're not people pleasing and also trying to find ourselves again. And so we basically, we get stuck there, right? Until we understand how the body keeps the score and how to utilize the body to heal us and get us to move out of that, we basically stay stuck there. And so that's the doom scrolling, or the bed rot, or lack of motivation, which it's really not a motivation issue, it's a trauma issue, right? So that's why we have to spread the word, right? There's this army of healers and spiritual people that are just ready and waiting to just explode out into the world. And the world is coming to a place where we need more healers. And so the time is now, right? It's kind of
I
like,
agree. And it's important to heal the healer, right? That's the very first step. And so, and I remember like when I first started this journey, years before I met you, I had met this Reiki master who, that was like the first thing she said. She said, we have to heal the healer. You know what I mean? And I was just like, that's profound, like, so we did Reiki and things like that, but nothing really had really shifted and moved until you and I had tapped into that subconscious programming, right? Because like you said, it could be something as simple as, like what came to my mind when you were talking about all the simple things was, my dad used to always say, money doesn't grow on trees. And that created so much lack in me. Like, I'm just telling you, and so it just little things, right? And they seem so simple and so innocent. And it's like, that's just something that he was told, probably. And, and he was just, and so it does. There are these small things that are repetitive or even not repetitive. Like you said, it could just be one little thing that somebody said, and it just creates this programming within you. And that's what replays, and that's where you find yourself stuck or stagnant or in that freeze mode. And it's hard to create. And I feel like there are a lot of people who have gone through this awakening, like you said, like there's this energy around like just suddenly like their third eye being opened, right? But they're like,
still frozen.
like
Well, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
Well, literally your nervous system goes, it's not safe. Like, it's not safe for me to share this or to talk to people or to tell them, right? Because maybe you were put down as a child, or you were made fun of, or you did speak up one time and somebody said something to you that hurt you. And your nervous system goes, that's not safe. It's like the glass ceiling that keeps you in your place, because the nervous system will always override the executive functioning brain. So just a real quick explanation. When we think consciously, our conscious brain is our prefrontal cortex, right? Executive functioning, strategy, planning, checklists, all those things, right? So I can say, I want money, I want purpose, I want abundance, I want to manifest this thing. Okay, that's all conscious brain. The subconscious, below conscious awareness, means we're not aware of it, is such a difficult thing. People are like, how do I find it? How do I reprogram it? Affirmations and hypnosis are kind of the top recommendations, but they don't always work if you haven't healed the nervous system and the body that believes it's not safe. So the body is a physical representation of the subconscious mind. And that's not talked about a lot. I think Joe Dispenza does say it. But that's why, because the nervous system is kind of in charge or directly connected to the subconscious brain, right? The limbic system that's back here, the part that's in charge of fight or flight, keeping you safe, emotions, triggers, all those things. Those always override the intelligent functioning. The nervous system will always win because the number one job is safety, right? So when somebody said, your shoes are ugly or money doesn't grow on trees, there's a little bit of a stress response opened that lives in the body, and it's never closed, right? So you never complete to come back to safety. And so you have associated a lack of safety with money, right? So we cannot allow money in, we can't create money, we have to spend money, we have to let go of money very quickly, however, whatever your pattern is, because you have that open stress response around money, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because money actually does grow on trees.
It does.
It literally does.
Like, and that's a perfect example of how contradictory like a lot of these belief systems are, right? When it comes to like the actual reality, when you're able to pull out of the reality that's kind of been projected onto us, like, right, like this, like smallness, this that there are only certain people that deserve to have all of these things, right, that deserve to be seen or deserve, and that's what especially here, I feel like in America, but just all over the world, right? Fame, I feel like is a huge thing that creates a lot of programming in people. That these people are above, right, that they are more important, or what they do, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that's
Absolutely.
another thing that, like you said, like that the world puts onto us is like, um it's just like they're doing these things that seem so far out of reach, but in all reality they're just human too,
Right. Just another
you
person,
know
another
yeah,
flawed person, perfectly imperfect. Yeah,
exactly.
you're kind of bringing together 2 points that really point to the same thing. Is um like money, everything is in circulation around us all the time. Everything's
Yeah.
just energy until it manifests in our reality. And the way we perceive things is directly affected by the nervous system. So the nervous system can literally change what you perceive, right? So if you love dogs, you always had a good relationship with dogs, you see a dog, it's going to be a friendly dog. But if you had a negative experience with a dog and you're walking down the street, same exact dog, that dog has not changed, but you perceive a threat, right? So it's interesting how our nervous system and healing our trauma can open our eyes to see that everything's available to us, and there really is no lack. And that is also directly connected to why the hidden seeker perceives the world as a threat. It's not safe to be seen. It's not safe to share my truth. Somebody's going to judge me, or I'm going to say something wrong and I'm going to be punished. I'm going to receive pain. It's again in that freeze state or that fawn state. One person is perceived as the prey, and everyone else or everything else is the predator, right? So the powerful people, the rich people, the celebrities, like you say, we have elevated them to a stature or a status that is inappropriate, right?
Yeah.
They are not a predator and we are not the prey. We are not going to be hurt by them. We do have to elevate ourselves. We have to bring them off the pedestal, and we have to say, I am amazing. I am valuable. I am made in the likeness of my creator, the most precious creation, favored, beyond measure, right? The things that we say to ourselves. And yes, it's a natural human tendency to look for the negative, look for the threat so that we can stay safe from the tiger, but we're not there anymore, right? Our nervous system needs to understand we're not there anymore. And we as those who have experienced difficult childhoods or upbringings or trauma have an even more elevated tendency towards negative thinking, right? Everything's a threat. Every dog's a problem. Every rich person's a problem. Everything is a threat, right? And so we really, in order to change our perspective and change the way we think, right? Some of the basics, when we go back to basics and we just think negative affirmations, it won't work if we have that open stress response. And so that's why it can feel so infuriating and frustrating, is like, how do I get in touch with the subconscious? How do I, right? I've amassed all the wealth of knowledge possible. I've read every ancient text and still I can't make it work, right?
Yeah.
The nervous system is the key. And that kind of bridges into connection with the divine and manifestation and all sorts of things. So
Yeah, and this is kind of bringing me around to what we were talking about before, is like I also fear like there is this big fear around being wrong and right,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And just because like what I feel differs from what you feel,
Yep.
right? It's like neither one of us necessarily are wrong and right. We're having our own experience, and it's as long as we're getting to the, to that main goal of this lifetime, I feel like, is to bring us back into oneness with source, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like there's, we were talking about like the way, right? But there's multiple different paths, and it's to say that there really, I hate to say that there is no wrong answer, because I'm sure that there are like some wrong moves that, even that feels uncomfortable saying that. Basically, don't do bad things to other people, and I feel like you're fine.
Right. Right.
you know
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard it said, and I wish I could quote who it was. So credit to whoever said it. It's not mine, but I've heard it said that basically the only bad thing we could do is get in someone else's way of their path, right? You could call it the sin or however you want, right? Sin just means to miss the mark. So, there's guardrails on this game called life that'll kind of keep us in check, and hell is what you create in your own mind. So if you're going to go kill someone, you're going to have some pretty significant karma, and the hell and the price that you pay is all within you. So it's, yeah, there are no shoulds. Don't should all over yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And only you know what's right for you, which again connects with trauma, because if you're not in touch with who you are, and you're not trusting in yourself, and you can't access the discernment tool that is your body, you're really going to struggle. And again, trauma causes us to look to everyone outside of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
For those of us who had really domineering parents that, finger in the face, don't do this, and you're a sinner and you're shameful, like my pastor narcissistic father, I was learning through that. I have to look to the authority for what is right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And again, another common response of being stuck in that fawn or freeze state is we project ourselves into other people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
What are they thinking about me? Did I say something wrong? Are they going to talk bad about me? Are they making fun of me? Right. We're living in their head instead of our own body. And it's no wonder we can't find our path. We can't find our purpose. We can't find happiness, because it's all in here. And I don't know why my Zoom does that. I swear. The divine says, yes, come home. I think you even used that term when we were in healing, was like the feeling of coming home. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it really does offer a new meaning to that phrase. Home is where the heart is.
Yeah. And that's funny that you kind of went on that, because that's exactly what I was thinking, is like that, I feel like there are a lot of healers, right? I think that you've mentioned this before, that are learning all of these techniques and learning all these things, and that's great. But I feel like, even for my own experience, right? Like I have kind of been everywhere where my mind thought that you know what I mean? But once I come home to tapping into releasing that trauma, and these different fears and things like that, coming home to realizing that, we're looking for this purpose, we're looking for this outside path, But I'm realizing that it's really just an everyday step-by-step experience, that is purpose, is just moving through this life every day. And if you can just, be kind and give to others, then you are, fully in purpose. And it's not about, you know, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I feel like I remember I used to want to place like, like people when people ask you, what do you do for a living?
Mhm.
Like they have a career, one career. This is what I do. This is who I am, right? And it's like, I feel like it's so much bigger than that. It's so much more to that. It's this thing outside of me doesn't define me. Um, eh, I don't know if what I'm saying is really kind of making sense or if I'm wrapping it around here, but um,
Makes complete.
yeah, it's not about the outside, right? It's about the inside and just following that guidance, right? Like uh I think you and I have talked about it before, like the when people start mowing their yard, when the neighbors, you know what I mean, they
Yeah.
start mowing their yard, and then you feel like, oh my gosh, I need to mow my yard, right? Like, what are they going to think? Exactly. What are they going to think if I don't mow my yard yet?
Yeah.
Um, but God has you, or source has you on a resting week, right? You have just done a bunch of alchemizing or whatever it may be, astral traveling, whatever, and and healing, whatever it may be, and you're supposed to be resting, right? But your mind is like putting, going into these neighbors' heads and trying to figure out, well, are they going to judge me if I don't mow my yard till next week, or
Yeah. And then we catastrophize, right? Like, are they
yeah.
talking about me? Are they telling other neighbors? Is the whole neighborhood mad at me? Like, they're going to kick me out, right? So ultimately, we end up somehow at death, like,
Yeah, my
yeah,
life is over.
right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah. When it was just 1 week of mowing,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
But that's
Yeah.
what a trauma brain will do,
Hmm.
right?
Absolutely. It's that snowball kind of thing. And yeah, yeah. So with manifestation, you had brought up manifestation. I have kind of quit like putting my own ideas onto things, if that makes sense. Like I really just put a lot of focus on like healing and allowing what's meant for me to just kind of come forward. Um, and I think that's just my own thing, right? Like that's it. I don't know. I used to manifest all the time, like as far as like putting my intentions out there. And I've seen these things come through as I've done the healing, right? It's like things that I go back into like a journal from like 4 years ago,
Mhm.
and it'll be here, right? And I'm like, I don't really want that anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't, that's not really for me, right? And so it goes to show that, like, when you are manifesting with your mind, it isn't always aligned with your heart if,
Mm.
before you're healing and stuff. I think that is another thing that people, they want to, they're wanting to change their life, and I love that. Um, but they oftentimes go for things and then they get disappointed in the process because it never comes through, or whatever it may be, and it's just all about alignment.
Mm. Yeah. And we're manifesting all the time.
Mhm.
We're manifestors. We are creators. We are in likeness of our creator, right? So it doesn't require effort. So many people put so much effort behind it. I'm trying this and I'm doing that and I'm efforting, and then that's actually blocking, which is pretty crazy. And
Yeah.
again, it ties in with trauma in the nervous system, because when we're in activation, even if, so it fawn and people pleasing and I'm sorry, fawn and freeze, and people pleasing is a trauma response associated with those, it is still an activated nervous system state, even though we're suppressed, right? So if you think of a gazelle running from a tiger, right? Sometimes their nervous system shuts down so deeply that they literally shut down their internal organ processes, and the tigers, they will fall over and play dead. They are basically escaping the tiger by fawning or freezing, right? And so
Mhm.
then the tiger goes, oh, great, he's dead. Let me go get the rest of my friends and we'll come back and graze on our prey. Well, then the gazelle jumps up and runs away, right? So that's still an activation of the nervous system state. That's what's happening to the hidden seeker who's stuck in that phase. And so we don't realize that our nervous system is directly connected to our frequency and our vibration, right? So if you think about the process of manifestation, it's not just thoughts and words,
Right.
right? So the brain has to match in chemistry to the pictures and the images that we feed it. We do that through our beliefs and our words, right? So if we're constantly perceiving threat, then the body is constantly being flooded with stress hormones, and our nervous system is more often than not in an activated state, right? And that is very masculine, blocking, resistant, controlling, right? It cuts us off from God, from manifestation, from source creation, however you want to see it, versus closing the stress response, utilizing the body to calm the nervous system, come back into regulation. We're then in rest, digest, healing, growth, repair, all things that cannot happen if you're in activation, right? So manifestation comes from that state, that calm nervous system state, that healed state that is feminine, magnetic, receptive, allowing. There's no effort required, right? Things just flow to you. And I love Abraham Hicks uses the vortex as an example of all the things that you've put out there. You said, I want this and I want that. It's all there. You don't have to effort or strive. You just have to receive. You have to know how to get your nervous system in a state where you're magnetic and receptive and allowing the things that are already there for you. Like we said, right? The money is circulating. Everything's circulating around you. It's just a question of, can it come in? Right?
Yeah.
So it's fascinating how all of that is connected.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also, going back to that subconscious programming, right? Knowing that you are worthy of whatever it is as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because you can, and that goes down to that trauma healing too. It kind of all coincides. It's crazy the way like healing trauma, it like changes so many different things, right? Heals the nervous system, heals the subconscious mind, brings you into more connection with source. It helps you align with your own personal gifts, God-given gifts, right?
Yep.
Because it's I feel like a lot of people are possibly like looking for these gifts, right? Because we're all a little psychic,
Yep.
we're all connected, we're all one.
Yes.
And it's just a matter of, how do you use these gifts? How do they show up for you in your own personal experience? People are looking for that. And I feel like with these gifts, right, comes great responsibility. But obviously we need to be in the right state of mind in order for them to really come through. And so that oneness with source also comes through with healing trauma as well. And,
Yeah.
You really lose that separation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you were sort of referencing this earlier too. Your purpose is thriving,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your highest self is the best possible version of yourself, the one who believes in you, the one who loves on you, the one who only speaks kindly to you, the one who is offering the gifts to the world in an effortless way. It's not self-sacrifice. It's not overgiving. It's not beating yourself up in the process. It's you're so full of light and happiness and love and joy and peace that you're overflowing into the people around you. You give from a place of overflow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting how we are searching for our gifts, and the inaccurate mirrors of our parents and our siblings and our peers when we were young. They told us, you're too tall, you're too fat, you're too this, you're too that, you're not enough, right? So not enough or too much of something. And that became your internal dialogue. And so then we take on the voice of our abuser, that negative voice. Some people call it the inner critic. I like to call mine the little trauma demon that wants to sit there and bark all these nasty things at me. It's a liar. It is Amanda Francis says that's a lie straight from the devil, right? So I'm not saying there is or not. That's a topic for another day. But the
Yep.
voice is wrong. It is a liar, and it is what programs our thoughts, and our thoughts, our mind, I believe, is the veil. It is the separation. It is the illusion, right? A Course in Miracles says that a miracle is just a shift in perspective. So
Mm-hmm.
it's that accurate mirror that we need to have, right? I am your mirror, you are my mirror. Together, we're helping each other see the beauty in each other. I help call forward your gifts, you help call forward mine. right? And an idea or a gift has to be given in order to grow. Again, this is why being stuck in isolation in that hidden seeker phase is so dangerous, because your gifts cannot grow. They have to be shared to come to light. And again, you have to heal the trauma to allow you to get out there and start sharing and make an offer. Like, I will do
Right.
free readings for 2 months, right? I'm not a big overgiver anymore. So, we don't give too much, but starting with free is not so bad. So you can see your gifts reflected back to you. And another amazing part about trauma and connection and purpose and gifts is trauma obviously creates lots of negative thinking, lots of negative chemicals, right? Stress hormones are highly acidic. We're only supposed to have a flash of that to get us to run from the tiger. We're not supposed to live in that state, not to mention environmental toxins, plastics, things are spraying in the air. It's everywhere. So toxins from stress or environmental toxins are held within the body and held within the cells. And so if we're constantly activated, we're not healing, growing, or repairing, we're building up a high toxicity load in our body, and the body keeps the score. Did you know cells also have their own nervous system? So if the cell is under high toxic load, the nervous system of your body and also of the cell are again activated, right? So they've got just kind of that feeling of like there's always a threat, right? Our cells, the mitochondria in our cells, are in charge of transforming light into energy. So what is source? What is connection to the divine? It's light. And so we lose our ability to be connected, to feel connection, to receive guidance, to receive intuition, to tap into our gifts if we are under high toxic load, right? So trauma healing helps reduce that toxic load, but so does fasting and cleansing and purifying the body. Many times people will adopt some sort of coping mechanism to deal with the unhealed trauma. You almost always have to have a coping mechanism. So if you do, don't beat on yourself. It's not your fault. You just need to heal the trauma, right?
Yeah.
And as you close those stress responses, you calm the nervous system, you move into rest, digest, healing, growth, repair, then you start to cleanse the body. There's a whole order of operation there. So don't try to piecemeal it, but just know it's possible, right? You can get to that state where your body literally starts to tingle and you feel lighter, literally, because your cells are able to receive the light and turn it into energy, which also, by the way, contributes to that feeling of lack of motivation as well. So
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
yeah.
That kind of really goes deep, the nervous system within the cells, though. You know what I mean? It really gives light and energy to that like everything is energy. Yeah. And so like every little thing has its own life of its own. You know what I mean? Like
As above, so below, as within, so without, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, which kind of leads us into like the current energies that we were experiencing this last week or so. Where are we at? We're midpoint, aren't we? So
Uh-huh.
we just had an eclipse a week ago, and we have another one coming up, and
Next week.
the energy has been interesting for sure. My birthday's on April 4th, so it's like, whoa, big energy activation for sure. But it's interesting when you are in unhealed trauma and you're stuck in that hidden seeker phase and you feel very low motivation and you're under high toxic load, you just are tired. There's just not a lot of energy available. And then you go into something like a South Node eclipse. It's rough. It's very, very difficult to separate what's mine and what's happening because of this eclipse. So I don't know, how did you experience the eclipse? It was very intense and heavy on my end.
Yeah, so for me, there was a lot of what the present fears were. So for me, it was like moving through some like religious fears and things like that, religious programming and like being kind of in my head a little bit, and just really, I like a stagnant energy, but at the same time still moving. It was interesting. It was like muscle memory, but at the same time, like my mind was not in it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really interesting how, did you know that lightning can activate the nervous system? Like every time you see a Schumann resonance spike, your nervous system is activated.
Interesting. Yeah, we've had a lot of that. Like,
Yes.
have you like it's been kind of going crazy.
Yes. Yes. If it's not solar weather, it's Schumann resonance. It's one thing or the other. And then you add to that the eclipse, and there's just low level activation all the time, basically.
Yeah, we're going into like Mercury retrograde, like all these different things,
Today.
right?
We are recording, right?
Yes.
I'm just Mercury retrograde, you remind me.
Right.
No, it was interesting. And I'm sure you can appreciate this when you meet with a lot of clients, it's very consistently everyone's experiencing something similar, different stories, but similar energy. So
Mhm.
yeah, I felt like we kind of got pulled back down into the underworld, which makes sense with the South Node eclipse, right? We're excreting, we're purging, we're letting go of things, but I don't recall previous South Node eclipses quite this dense.
Dense.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Dense
So
is a really good word for it.
yeah.
Dense is a perfect word for it because it was, yep,
Yeah.
heavy
Yeah.
for sure.
And just old things that I thought I had worked through, like you said, in your head, right? A lot of old thoughts. It was very much a lot of um, management. And that's where trauma spotting is such a basic life skill, right? Like we don't work with people so that you have to need me forever.
Right.
We work
Well,
with,
because sorry to
yeah,
interrupt, but
no, go ahead.
because like it's almost like after working with you for a year, my body is trained.
Yeah.
So when I'm triggered or when something happens, it's like my body automatically, I go to where I find it in my body,
Yeah.
and it's like muscle memory. Like it's just like my body is now trained to release that. Like, oh, okay, so this is here to serve me. I'm going to feel through these emotions. I'm going to allow my body to show me
Yeah.
whatever it needs to show me in this situation. And it's just like, it's almost instantaneous sometimes
Yeah.
where it's wild. Okay, sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah, no, that's okay. I think I lost your sound a little bit there. So I don't know if a cord was bumped or something, but
oh,
now you're back. You're good.
okay.
In and out. But no, I'm glad you said that, because that's kind of the point, right? Like we're teaching people, it's the phrase, I'm tripping over my words here, but it's the phrase heal thyself that I was thinking
Uh-huh.
about earlier when you were saying heal. This is the strategy or a life skill. It's kind of like brushing your teeth or going to the gym or eating healthy food. We have emotional bodies. We have to learn how to process and release emotion, because otherwise we just keep piling on more and more. And things like the eclipse, it can be triggering. It can bring up a lot of heaviness that we have to work through, and we have to have that skill so that because many people will go through this eclipse and hold on to what I experienced a week ago, a month ago, 6 months ago, right? We have to be able to release these things. And I like to always talk about the diathesis model, right? That in psychology, we are a cup, right? And our stress is the water. And so what happens when we get full? We spill over, and it can be that feeling of depression or complete shutdown that is that fullness, that spillover, right? So learning to release these things from your body is such a critical life skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Beautiful. So what other revelations have you been experiencing?
Well, so as I mentioned before, I feel like this is a good time to bring it up. This weekend, I fell in love with Jesus. And like saying it again, it's like I said it to you out loud for like the first, you know what I mean? Like you were the
Yeah.
first person that I said it to.
Yeah.
You're always my go-to as far as like I've said this before. It's like I feel like not denoting to like age or anything like that, but like coming to you is like sometimes like going to visit my grandmother, you know what I mean? It's like this warm nurturing feeling. And so anyways, yeah, no, yeah, this weekend I don't know, well, I do know what it was, but it just was an immense feeling of just like overwhelming of like, man, what a man. You know what I mean? Like,
I love how you say
what an
that.
inspiration. Like, I don't even know you how to even, it's just like, that, it's just, I see so much of what I feel and what I feel his teachings are. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I just resonate with him very much.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier, correct me if I'm wrong, but some of what was coming up through the South Node eclipse was some of your religious trauma. Is that right? And so
Yeah.
that led you to this place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we collectively, society, globally, we have an aversion to negative emotion. We feel like, especially, toxic positivity, like don't go into the lower vibrations, right? But look at where it brings us,
I
right? That
know.
we can really start to shift our perspective around negative energy and to say, okay, what is the gift in this? Like, and we were also talking about how there is no one right way, right? That so many people have a perspective of, Jesus as being associated with, you know, Christianity or religion, I think I would rather say, that some religious organizations who are not trustworthy or not doing what God would want them to do have really given that person a bad name. And I mentioned to you too, I've because I was raised in a very religious home. My father was a narcissist and he would basically beat us over the head with the Bible, right? We were sinners, we were shameful, we were guilty. And it is frustrating to me. I feel almost like a righteous anger when I hear a minister or a pastor shame the congregation. You're a
Yep.
broken sinner and you should crawl on your knees and hope and pray that God forgives you so that you don't burn in the lake of fire. That is not God. I am
No.
sorry, because you
No.
can replace God with the word love, right? Pure love. That's it. God is love, period. There's no human sacrifice. There's no punishment. There's no vengeful God, and just I obviously I get very passionate about this. So in my journey of healing the religious trauma, and it's so fascinating how I haven't told you this, but I'm really starting to work with a lot of people who have suffered religious trauma, even a pastor, which is amazing because there is something happening right now where, oh, big goosebumps. I don't want to use words that are inappropriate. We'll say the body of Christ is awakening to a new way of being, right? That the church may be called to a shift in perspective and the way that they deliver their message. And dependent on whether or not they are listening or they answer the call remains to be seen.
Right.
But there are a lot of people who identify as Christian who are waking up to magnetism and vibration and frequency and the love of God, not the shameful God, right? So it's such an interesting journey to start to open up to things that we have shut the door on because of organized religion, who utilized it for control or greed or selfishness, and they stopped
Shame.
listening to God, right? And so to start asking the question around who is God and what is my relationship with him, right? Who is Jesus in my relationship with him, right? And to start to come to that new understanding through your own resonance. And again, trauma ties in here because if we are so disassociated from our body and we're not able to use our body as the discernment tool that it is made to be, or one of the things it's made to be, we're not going to be able to feel into what is truth here, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
how have you been sort of coming to know Jesus more or better in a new way?
Just really kind of studying the way that he honestly, what's resonated the most with me is his relationships that he formed right with his disciples who were sinners, sinners, right?
Perfect.
Um,
Perfect.
yeah. So it's like, and it's like that ultimate acceptance and that unconditional love and seeing the light and the love in them and giving them that opportunity, right? Like what an honor that would be. You just watch somebody perform a miracle and then they ask you to follow him, right? Like, and it's like, I mean, you know what I mean?
I was like,
Like,
what?
yeah. And
Yeah.
so, that's really what I'm like so in awe of, and what I really like admire about him at this time. It's really kind of drawn me in. It's like that I resonate with that a lot, and I feel like that is what is the truth. You know what I mean? It's not this perfectionism of hide all of your mistakes in the closet. And when we go out into public, we're going to pretend like everything is okay. And you know what I mean? We're going to go to these, churches every Sunday. And that's when we spend time with God because we're separate from, you know what I'm saying? It's like all these different things. But it's the, it's almost like, it's odd because I feel like just as sources, like Jesus is within us, right? Like oneness. And so yeah, I don't know where I was going with that little tangent. It kind of just left my mind, but I'm gonna leave that there. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, there's a lot of different other religions or ancient texts that reference him as well. And I don't personally know of. I mean, feel free. I'll check the comments later to see if anyone else in the community is aware of any other prophets that were mentioned quite as often or in as many other religions as he was. And I think that to me points to the fact that he crosses boundaries, right? We were talking about the one right way earlier, and how many wars have been fought over, no, my way is the right way and it has to be this way. And yet Christ was able to cross those boundaries, right? That he
Right.
spent time in the East, we believe, studying Buddhism and being with the sorry, I almost said the Pharisees, being with the Essenes and understanding their way, and actually rejecting the Pharisees, right? Like
Yep.
organized religion, right? Like he would go and flip the tables with the money changers in the temple, right? So yeah, there's a lot here to unpack, and like I said to you, I won't claim to be the authority on that. I'm personally still asking for guidance, asking, right? Remain as king by asking questions. One of my favorite tips ever.
Yeah.
Just keep asking, who are you? How should I see you? What is my right perspective of you? Ask for a shift in a shift in perspective, which is the miracle of understanding and seeing the truth of how we are to have a relationship with this person or the Christ energy. And you mentioned being in the body, and as you know, I very intimately have come to understand the divine living in the body. Of course, the divine is everything, right? Rocks and
Yeah.
plants and trees and people and desks and pens, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So that's not to minimize God in any way, but rather to understand how close we are.
Uh-huh.
And it has been said the body is the temple, right? That God lives within us, and we can access that energy, the Christ energy within us, right? Even more as we empty ourselves out of the trauma and the stress and the toxins, and we can become even closer and really understand. And that, to me, as I say that, I feel the elevation of it, right? That's the ultimate raising in vibration and frequency, is
Hmm.
connecting with the divine and the one and the Christ energy within us. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's the highest goal.
Yeah, exactly.
On a daily basis, right? You said it earlier too. It's a moment to moment
Mhm.
management. So
Yep. Yeah.
I loved the analogy of balance, right? That in our nervous system, the vagus nerve runs behind our vocal cords and down the spine, and it is in charge of moving our nervous system from fight or flight activation to rest and digest, healing, growth, repair. And it is a balancing act. We need activation to be able to run from the tiger or handle things that require activation, but we're also supposed to move back and forth, right? And the analogy of balance, and how when we stand and do tree pose, we're not perfectly solid in the middle.
Yeah.
We're moving back and forth, right? We're constant correction. And that, to me, is the ultimate depiction of our relationship with the divine and the Christ energy, and getting closer to oneness is this constant coming back to center, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And you had talked about how, uh, I think I have a session coming up, but
Okay.
I just want to get this out. You had talked about finding the you know, how in those dense moments, right? It's like, and it brought up that religious fear and it brought me here. And I think that that is a big thing that, that, you know, trauma spotting and thing is in such, in this healing journey has shown me that, because I used to want to resist that, right? I used to want to be like, no, I don't want to be in this dense energy. I'm not stuck in my head. I'm not, you know what I mean? But now, you know, I'm real, like, it's like, as of like the last few months, I'm like, oh, I'm in this and this is good for me. I like it here, right? Like and obviously I don't want to stay there, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's almost kind of exciting because it's like, oh, I'm releasing something else. I wonder what comes next after that.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You get excited about the triggers.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I found something. Like,
Yeah,
let's go get
exactly. Let's
it.
release it.
Right. Versus that old feeling of like on the hamster wheel of like, I still haven't gotten it figured out. I'm still not moving through this thing. Why can't I figure it out? Right. And then the toxic self-blame and all
Yeah.
that stuff that comes with it. Yeah. The brain, it's disassociated tendencies. It doesn't want to, like, it wants to just be like the horse with the blinders on, right? Like, don't look at this and don't look at that and just pretend it doesn't exist. And I like the analogy of walking around with glass shards in our body and refusing to pull them out, right? And we have to move through life so gingerly that we don't, you know, nick a vital organ with that glass shard, right? So it's like, avoid that trigger and don't go here and don't do this and don't say that. And right. Versus when you're healed, you can go anywhere. You can do anything. You are so solid in yourself that you can handle anything. And there's nothing that can take you down. And nobody can take that away from you either.
Yeah. Literally.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because once you really learn yourself through healing, right? Nobody can tell you any different, right? Not a single human can tell me anything.
Right.
Like, I straight to source. That's it. That's where I get my judgment, right? Every time.
Yep. Yep. And you have the ability to discern within you, is it true or not? Right.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm triggered by it, it just means I need to do healing. It doesn't mean it's true in any way.
Yep. Exactly.
So,
Awesome.
well, we're going to keep spreading the word.
Yeah. Keep going.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love spending time with you.
I love spending time with you. And we always, you know, maybe we should do more of these just so we can have an excuse.
Yes. Yes. I'm up for that.
Okay. Cool. But yes, thank you so much. And we'll definitely do this again. And thank you to everyone who watched and you know, all of the interaction and comments and things. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will see you next time. That was good.
Yay. Let me hit pause on mine too.